10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You have entered Untold Radio AM. And now broadcasting from a secret location, your hosts, Joel Sturgis and Doug Hychek. And good evening and welcome to this edition of Untold Radio AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Doug, COVID-free, hopefully.
Yes.
Knock on wood. Hychek.
I am COVID.
We are good. And we are here to bring you the best in alternative talk radio. And it's no exception tonight. Tonight we are having M.G Stephens on the show. You want to stick around for this. We're kind of taking a little bit of a different turn than the normal shows that we've done last month and a half. Get this. She's a medium empath. You want to hang around. She wrote a book. It's a very cool book. The Boogeyman Chronicles by M.G Stephens. We're going to find out what chronicles with the Boogeyman, what she went through in her path to enlightenment of her own powers. So we're going to check that all out bottom of the hour. Right, Doug? Be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh.
So, yeah.
So
well, how the hell are you doing?
I'm good. I'm getting cabin fever though.
Oh.
Thinking about a road trip. I'm literally that's all I can think about. Where am I going to go? Oh.
Well, you could take a road trip anytime you'd like.
I want to go to like hop in the car and drive to Key West or, someplace where it's warm. Or
Arizona would be really nice this time of year.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
It would be, yeah.
So if you guys are listening from any of the nice, warm states, invite us over. We'll show up. We're not even joking. If you put the invite out, we're coming.
It's true. Yeah, if it's warm.
One of our listeners said, "Hey, Joel, I got some room for the next couple weeks, and let's just say whatever state, fill in the warm state blanks. Why don't you come on down and hang out?" I would so be there.
So I'm definitely going to take a road trip this summer, though. I'm thinking about I already talked to a guy about it who agreed to go. We're talking about taking our motorcycles to Alaska.
Oh, you just talked about going somewhere warm.
I know.
And now you want to go to Alaska.
Summer's going to be here quick. It'll be on top of us quickly.
I have done that drive.
Have you really?
I have done that drive.
I haven't.
I left from, right where I'm pretty much sitting and drove to Alaska. So went up through International Falls, Minnesota, and drove that way. Twice I've done it. And the other time I went into Washington.
Twice. If you went there, you got to drive back.
Well, no, but we did it twice on two separate occasions.
What was the purpose?
At that time, I was in my 20s, and I was driving a semi-truck. And so it was for work purposes.
Yeah, well, that'll do it.
And because I wanted adventure at that time of my life. Yeah. And I was 21.
Could you imagine, what's the longest road in the world? Do you know what it is?
I don't know.
It's the Pan American Highway. And starts up
in Alaska. Yeah.
Starts up in Alaska, goes all the way to Chile and Argentina. It's 30,000 miles.
Jeez. Now that, my friend, would be a road trip.
Yeah. And I fantasize about doing trips like that. It would take 3 months, I guess. You got to drive 8 hours a day. It takes 3 months.
Yeah.
30,000.
But it would be hard to stick to it after a while.
But then there's only one spot. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's somewhere around Panama, I think. And there's like 100 miles of swamp where they could build a road, so you have to take a ferry around that swampy area.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
How much that would cost to get a ferry?
Oh, and a ferry. Oh, that's not bad. I'm sure that'd be.
No, to take you 100 miles, though.
That wouldn't be anything.
Because I took the ferry across Lake Superior years ago. I don't know. It must have been 8, 9, 10 years ago. And I think we're going to the Apostle Islands. And that's how you do that, is you could take a ferry across. And that was like $50.
I bet you this ferry in South America would be about $20 per person, per vehicle.
Yeah, maybe. It just might be. You just never know.
Much.
You know, that's amazing. That'd be a fun trip. You should do that and then document your trip.
Well, that would be the idea as a filmmaker. I think about, recording kind of a diary, and I'm sure it's been done. I haven't even checked YouTube, but I'm sure it's been done. I'll bet you have even driven a pedal bike the whole way.
Oh, I'm sure if you dig into it and you find out who's done it, how they've done it, there's probably different modes of transportation.
Yeah.
You can watch all these travel videos out there. I know at one time Norman Reedus had some show called Ride with Norman Reedus where they would do these trips, him and his rich friends.
Huh.
So, who knows if they ever tackled that or not.
But
I do know.
I'll bet you, Joel, there's been people that have walked.
I bet you. And then there's another one. Have you ever thought about taking the old Route 66? What's left of it, I should still say.
Yeah, I've done that once. I did that once. It was okay. It wasn't that great.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, it was back in the 90s.
Yeah, because it ends up in downtown wherever in California. Or, that's one of the spots it ends up at.
I was actually heading to Vegas. Or no, I had to go to Malibu and then up to Vegas.
Okay.
And, it was just one of those trips. And I got bit by a recluse spider in...
Oh, you poor man.
In Utah at a rest stop. And then my leg started swelling up. By the time I got to Malibu, it was ready to split open. So I went to Anaheim to the hospital, and they gave me one of those big injections in my butt.
Man, you're lucky to be here because those kill. They can kill you.
Well, you can get some pretty bad infections. So my foot swelled up about, I don't think I'm exaggerating. It was probably about 8 inches wide.
Yeah.
I was on crutches the rest of the way and all the way home. But yeah, you don't want to get bit by a recluse spider.
No, I would not. I would not like to get bitten by one of those. No, thank you.
Yep.
No, I'm good.
Yep.
I've lived in areas where they thrive.
The other weird thing about road trips I always find is, like, I've driven to Florida, I'm sure 100 times. But you don't see much wildlife when you're driving. You're always looking for deer and this.
I would imagine.
But then you get home and you cross like the Minnesota border and you start seeing all these deer and animals. And it's like, what the hell? How did I just drive 2,000 miles? Never saw a skunk.
Do you think that's because most of our driving is on the interstate?
Probably, I would imagine, but still, you would think you would run into one of our many 30 million white-tailed deer. I've driven to Florida numerous times and back, not even seeing a deer.
Yeah.
And we have 30 million deer in this country.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, but I think a lot of that is because you're flying along with 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you're on the interstate with all that other traffic. And they do put, I know a lot of areas I've noticed they put that fencing up along the interstates.
It's true.
To help.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
To help reduce the collision with deer.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, because we even have it on I-35, that fencing.
Yeah, and it sort of works.
It sort of works. It does reduce it, though. I mean, people don't,
But you got to realize, Joel, deer can jump 10 feet high.
They can. That's why they build them 20 feet tall.
No,
Depends.
don't. Oh my God, the ones around here are no more than 4 or 5 feet tall.
It's only meant to be a deterrent.
In the city, in the city they do. They build those, but those are sound barriers.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep.
But that would be a lot of fun. That'd be a lot of fun. It's been a while since I've been on a long road trip.
It would be.
You know, the last road trip I was on is when I drove to Deadwood.
Yeah.
And that's 8 hours one way.
Yep. I've driven to Deadwood too.
So, it was a fun trip. I'd do it all over again.
That's the trip where I ended up with a grouse who went through my grill on my my new Ford, and its head was just sticking out right in the middle of my grill. And I pulled up McDonald's, and people were looking out the window and laughing.
Yeah, new hood order.
So I looked, and it's like, oh my God. This poor grouse. Somehow his whole body went right through that little crack. And right. And he got flipped around, and his head was just sticking out. Like a ornament. Yep.
Ah, poor grouse, I tell you. Poor thing. Poor thing.
Anyhow. So would you like to hear, I looked up, and I was thinking about all the deer, and didn't really, I don't think I've ever really investigated, what are some of the weird deer facts? Because we all live with deer. All of us do.
Okay, yeah, we do. Some of us in our freezer.
Literally, yeah, right. And so I went and I looked up a whole bunch of facts on deer. And of course, the minute I'm about to read them, somehow my computer always wants to reset exactly during the show and asks for a password. So let me type in my password.
Okay.
Just like, really?
You tell us your password.
Right during the show.
Right during the show.
Oh my God. So
this always happens to you.
I know.
You think you're all set up, you're ready to go, and you think you have it all just ready to go, and then this happens.
So I looked up about 40 facts on deer. I guarantee most people don't know any of them.
Okay.
So I thought, well, we all live with deer, and we're all dodging them constantly and seeing them. And I thought, well, what do we really know about them? So did you know deer can run 30 miles an hour? And they can leap 10 feet. We just talked about that. Yeah. But they can leap 30 feet in a single bound.
That's amazing.
Yeah. One deer in 30,000 is white.
Wow. And they become, just a side note, they become Einsteins during a certain time of year.
Einsteins?
Because they're everywhere. They're everywhere until deer season. Once deer season hits, they are nowhere to be found.
What are you talking about? Oh, albino deer.
They become so smart during deer season. Deer do.
Well, deer, of course they do. And they start herding up, of course, this time of year. So if you go up to like Ely, or by Gilbert, you'll see huge herds of deer. They're all like, because they're trying to guard each other from the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll herd up just to defend themselves against wolves. But anyhow, back to my dumb facts.
Okay.
Did you know deer can become rabid?
No, I did not know.
Yeah, they become.
Did not know that.
And in fact, they did a check in Pennsylvania. They took one state, and there were 6 deer out of 300 deer that were rabid, that had rabies. So that's quite a few.
That is, that's actually a pretty big number.
In 2006, there were 13 confirmed incidences of white-tailed deer attacking humans just in one area in Illinois.
I believe it.
And
I believe it.
In fact, one of my first TV stories I ever did was on a guy from Texas. Came up to Minnesota. He was up here on I think a construction job or a gas line job. And he saw this white-tailed deer and he thought, oh man, we don't have deer that big in Texas. So he approached it and the deer attacked him. For like 6 hours, he was up in a tree and he'd come down and the deer would attack him. Finally, the cops came and the deer attacked the cops. So I covered that story. And so I always think about deer attacks when I'm, because I've met 2 people now that have been attacked by deer.
Yeah, I knew a couple of gentlemen growing up that have their own encounters with deer, and yeah, they will attack if they're provoked. Generally they run away, generally speaking, but there is that odd time where the circumstances are just right, they will attack.
But what's funny is most people don't report deer attacks because they're embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah, but those hooves are like knives.
They don't know how many people are really attacked every year. But deer kill 200 people a year through a combination of attacks, car accidents, those kinds of things. But deer are directly related to 200 deaths a year. And so you have a much greater chance of being killed by a deer than a shark.
Yeah.
Much greater. Or a bear.
You have a zero chance of being killed by a shark if you never go to the ocean.
Yep. Did you know deer can only see two colors? They only see in yellow and blue.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. I had no idea.
And they call it dichromatic vision.
Okay.
And they can see apparently more shades of blue than any creature that they know of.
Oh, I know they have supersonic hearing. I know that. Yes,
they do hear good, but their vision is not so great.
No. No, but they can smell and hear.
Now here's one that most people absolutely do not know. That white-tailed deer eat a lot of meat.
Do tell.
Yes, see, they eat fish, mice, frogs, toads, snakes. A lot more than people think. I mean, it's almost daily they're eating meat.
Man, I had no idea deer were eating meat.
They also eat eggs, songbird eggs. God, it's just kind of crazy. You think about deer. Oh, they're so cute. They only eat plants. No.
Yeah. Deer are something else, let me tell you.
Okay. Deer can swim up to 15 miles per hour. They're great swimmers. Deer have 4 stomachs. Kind of like a cow, I guess.
Yeah.
4 chambers in their stomach. Deer eat 650 different plants. So their diet is crazy.
Yeah, it's very diverse.
Yeah, I'd say that's insane. I've probably only eaten 2 or 3 different plants in the last month. I bet you've eaten only 1.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, does potatoes count?
Let's make that a non-counter. It's totally a non-counter. Okay, deer have better sense of smell than dogs do. They have 297 million olfactory cells in their nose, where dogs only have 220 million. And you know how good dogs smell. Humans, of course, only have 5 million, to give you a perspective.
Yeah. Compared to them, we can't smell nothing.
We can't smell anything. Thank God.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, especially if I was on a road trip with you.
Oh, man.
Anyhow, moving on. Deer have very distinct personalities, apparently, in who they like to hang out with. Like, they all have like their own favorite foods, how they like to sleep. And speaking of sleep, they only sleep for 30 minutes. Then they wake up, stand up, stretch, and go back to sleep.
Oh.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Do you imagine if you had to do that every 30 minutes?
Yeah, that would most of us would not like that because it'd interrupt our sleep pattern and we'd be very tired the next day.
Say. Antlers on white-tailed deer are the fastest growing bones on Earth. Deer have 8 different glands, and they're all different, that, can put secret signals, so they can communicate 8 different ways with all their glands. And once again, could you imagine if you had 8 different types of glands where you could like leave some sexy gland mark on your favorite chair for your wife, and then you could
sexy gland.
Yeah, your sexy gland, and then
my sexy gland.
Then you could rub your forehead and leave some kind of other like "don't mess with me" territorial gland I don't know. I find that interesting.
That is kind of interesting, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, it's crazy.
They use pheromones and scents to communicate with each other.
Deer are full grown in 4 years. And I think, I've gotten different information how long they live. Some studies say they only live 4.5 years average because of hunting, cars and disease and blah, blah, blah. Other ones say they live between 6 and 14 years in the wild. But deer will live up to 23 years in captivity.
Yeah, because life is much easier for them in captivity.
Did you know some deer migrate quite a long distance? Some deer just say the hell that screw this winter and they leave.
Yeah. And
that's something that I don't think many people know. They think they just kind of stay put for the whole winter.
So what made you interested in deer today?
Because I see deer constantly every time. I can't go anywhere without running into a bunch of deer.
Gotcha.
I'm just like, there's got to be some weird facts, and I knew a lot of them, but not really. So I had to go to probably 10 different websites to get all the information I wanted.
Every morning, I have deer in my backyard.
Yeah.
Every morning, and quite a few of them.
But have you ever seen a 300-pound deer, Joel?
Oh yeah, shot one.
300 pounds.
Yes,
that's
I
huge.
Shot a big white-tailed deer. He dressed out. Before he was dressed, he was over 3 bills. Wow. After he was dressed out, he was about 220.
That's pretty crazy. That's big.
That was a big deer. And he had just little antlers, though. It was crazy. He didn't have great big. You would think would have had just huge antlers on him.
Like
he did not.
It's kind of like you.
Well, I don't have any antlers, so
How do we know you're always wearing a hat?
I got what? That is true. It's covering up the devil horns.
There could be antlers there growing. We wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
We wouldn't. Anyhow, there's over 1.5 million deer-related car accidents each year.
Yeah, ask any insurance company, and they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
The thing they don't like the most is the deer collisions.
Well, I mentioned there were 200 people that were killed every year by deer. There's 10,000 serious injuries from deer. Now, we're talking some pretty big numbers.
And if you think that people that drive cars fear deer, motorcyclists really fear deer.
Oh, yeah. I'll bet you that's where most of the deaths occur.
Yeah. I've known people that have hit deer on a motorcycle, and it does not end well for anyone in that scenario.
Right. Yeah, that's one bad thing about riding motorcycles at night, especially.
Yeah. Yup.
So from all the stuff I could gather, it looked like, I'm gonna jump out on a limb and say about 120 people a year actually attacked and killed by whitetails. Probably bucks, during rut in the fall.
Yeah. Yup.
And the one thing about deer, when they get on you, man, if you do look up any deer attack videos or elk attack, because elk are a deer, you get into a situation where they just don't let up. Once they want to attack you, they just keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you. I don't care what you do. They'll just try to get you for 10 hours. It's weird.
Yep.
You would think they would leave after the danger is over. Their threat is gone, but they don't. Okay, here's one that really shocked me. White-tailed deer herds have been known to go over 100,000 members.
100,000 members in one herd?
One herd, yep.
Wow, that's huge.
That's amazing.
That is a very amazing figure.
Okay, Joel, here's a guess for you. What state has the most deer car accidents? 12 years in a row.
Well, I would say Wisconsin.
No, I that's what I guessed too. It's West Virginia.
Okay, well, yeah, because they're very, because they have a big deer population out that way as well.
And here's a tip. Don't swerve to avoid deer collisions. Just slow down, brake, careful.
Yep.
Slow down. You've hit the deer, you hit the deer. A lot of accidents are due to rollovers and people hitting trees.
The best thing you can do, and I know this from experience, unfortunately, is square your vehicle up to the animal. God, it sucks. I know. Nobody wants to hit a deer, and the deer doesn't want to get hit. But if you find yourself in a situation, square the vehicle up. Not like aim for it, but it makes sure nice and square, because the widest part you can hit, the better the impact will be. It's going to be spread out.
Yeah.
If you try to swerve or get cool with it, or try to do evasive maneuvers, it could, like Doug said, rollovers and other crashes with and crashes of oncoming traffic have happened that way too, where people get head-on collisions.
Sure, then you're killing other people,
and then you're killing others and yourself, and because that deer impact will be nothing compared to getting into head-on.
True.
So if you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, brake as much as you can, but also bear in mind hitting them flat on with your vehicle is the best way to do it, because it will spread out that impact. And God, I hope the deer dies instantly, because that poor animal.
Well, the other one too, you think about hitting a moose. Now they're by far the biggest member of the deer family.
Yeah.
And they're 1,800 pounds full grown.
Yeah, they're large.
Ton.
They're very large. A good friend of mine, I'd say about 3 months ago, hit a moose. And this is with a full-size GMC Yukon. And it totaled that Yukon out.
Oh,
it was just smashed up.
Yep, and moose are dangerous, especially during the rut. Steer clear.
Yeah, yep.
So moose kill at least two humans per year, attacks.
You think me more, because they are actually very aggressive animals, especially during the rut, because they can't see at all hardly. Moose have horrible eyesight.
Yep.
They don't have very good eyesight.
Yep.
And they have bad tempers.
Yep. Yeah, I had a moose one time actually try to get us while we were in a canoe during the rut. And the guy I was with was definitely upset. He was like, he was upset.
Years ago, when I was working at the mining company, I used to work at a place called LTV Steel, and I was on the railway at one time. During the rut on that train, those moose will actually charge a train. That old adage that they will.
I believe
they'll come right after. They never win. The moose never wins.
Okay, so all right, I've got one last thing, and we only have 3 minutes left here before break. We bring our guest on. Okay, so what state would you guess? Don't cheat, Joel. I'm watching you. What state would have the biggest deer population in the U.S.?
Alaska.
No, actually, Alaska's got one of the lowest.
Really? Well, I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
Let me have one more bite at the apple guess. It's going to be in the Midwest, I'm sure.
Okay.
It's either going to be Montana or Wyoming.
Nope, not even close.
What is it?
Texas. Texas has 4 million deer.
Jeez, yeah, I could see that.
Okay, let me run through these states. Georgia, 1.2 million. Oklahoma, 500,000. Colorado, only 25,000, which is interesting. Iowa, 400,000. South Dakota, 300,000. Alabama, 1.8 million, which is kind of shocking to me. Nebraska, 375,000. North Dakota only has 90,000 deer. Arkansas has 1.1 million. Wyoming, 60,000. Indiana, 1 million. Texas, 4 million. Kansas, 650,000. Kentucky, 900,000. Illinois, 850,000. Mississippi has 1.8 million. Ohio, 800,000. Wisconsin, 1.2 mil. Missouri, 1.3. Minnesota only has 1 million.
Socks are the #1 most requested item at homeless shelters. Underwear second, and shirts are third. At Bombas, socks were first, made with comfortable details for everyday wearing. Then underwear, and shirts too, all designed to perfectly fit. At Bombas, every item you purchase means you're donating an essential clothing item to someone in need. One comfortable clothing item for you, one donated to someone in need. Bombas. Comfort for all. Get 20% off your purchase at bombas.com/comfy.
Wow, only. That's still a lot to hear. 1 million. That's all big numbers, except for the 25,000. I would have thought that would have been higher. And I would have thought the Dakotas would have been higher because all the grasslands and all the flatlands they have.
And you would think, because you're counting, the antelope and all that too.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I was just shocking. I actually was shocked in every state. I was like, no, that doesn't make sense.
That is cool to learn. We got to get out of here, though. When we come back, we're going to be talking to M.G. Stephens. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions, brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey, girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to this edition of Untold Radio AM with your hosts, Joel Sturgis and Doug Hijack.
Is that your Carney voice?
I was trying.
Terrible.
I think. Thank you for pointing out the obvious. Jeez. God, you're so nice.
I know.
You're so nice, Doug. So, some days I wonder why I have enemies. I could just call you.
It's true.
And you'll deal with it.
I love giving you, you know what?
Yeah, it's like it's your job.
Makes me happy.
It must put you in your happy place, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, speaking of happy places, we have a great guest on tonight. We have M.G Stephens. Now, there's a word here, Doug, I cannot pronounce to save my life.
I know, but we're going to ask her. Just skip that word.
Okay, she is a medium and an empath who grew up knowing she was very different, but not sure of why. She started experiencing paranormal activity at a very early age, about 2 years old, folks. Her mother was also a well-known psychic that worked with detectives to solve cold cases. MG struggled to accept her abilities for decades and tried her best to dismiss the terrifying encounters that she was having daily. After many years, she decided that she was going to pursue this and find out why and how her abilities were working and why she was having these experiences from ghosts and the unexplained. Without any further ado, M.G. Stephens. Welcome to Untold Radio.
It's Stephens.
Oh, I am so sorry.
It's okay.
Stephens. Oh my gosh, did I destroy that or what? Well, M.G. Stephens, there we go. Very phonetical tonight, I guess, when I say the PH. Yeah, but, well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, what is the word that no one can pronounce? It starts with the N.
Neurodivergent.
There it is. I knew I was going to slaughter it on radio if I try to do it live, a live read with that. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to tiptoe away from that word. But now we know what that is. Now, what is that? What does that word mean?
Okay, so neurodivergence means someone who is not neurotypical. Neurodivergent is autistic, ADHD, dyspraxia, epilepsy. It's someone who is neurodivergent. We're just wired differently.
Okay, it makes total sense now. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So, in the bio, we were talking about your abilities, and you kind of grew up with them. Why don't you take us to the top? I mean, it says here in your bio, we'll start at that 2 years age, because you've been noticing activity since you were 2 years old.
Yeah, my first experience was really strange. I still, to this day, I'll be 45 in a couple of months, and I can't even explain it still. But basically, I was a little kid. And I was old enough to stand. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I was old enough to stand up in my crib. So, standing up in my crib, and I remember having this very scary moment. And I'm still scared of will I have this again? But basically, I was standing in my crib, holding on to the railing, and I remember looking up and seeing something in the half light because it was very dark. I was supposed to be sleeping. It was nighttime. And I remember looking up and seeing something and pointing to something and being very, traumatized by it. But I also have a very distinct memory of me looking down at myself in the crib. And to this day, again, I don't get it. But I still remember everything in the room, the wallpaper, the diaper, everything, the color of the carpet. And I would tell my mom this, and she was like, how do you remember that? You were just a baby. And I'm like, Mom, I don't know. I remember it. And then about a year or two, maybe later, I was old enough. It was Easter. I was on my little purple tricycle, and I was in my little Easter dress, and my mom and my middle sibling were desperately trying to kind of, oh, hey, let's, hide eggs and have fun. And I was probably in need of a nap. And I was like, yeah, no, not having it. So I was kind of fussy. But I still remember having another encounter where I was, on my little purple tricycle looking up and pointing at something and screaming. And yet I have a very distinct memory of looking down and seeing the whole scene. And no one else saw it but me. So I recently spoke with Paul Eno, who, if you don't know who he is, he's a super cool guy. He's been in the paranormal industry for a million years, and he worked with the Warrens. And I asked him, I said, what, he's seen it all. So I was like, well, what did I go through? And he was like, well, it kind of sounds like you had some, with the way he described it, he said in the multiverse, you maybe had a shifting identity point, and, you split into two entities or something. I don't know. So even he really didn't know what to tell me. But yeah, that was the first experience that I remember having.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's something.
It's so weird. And again, like I always had that tucked back in the back of my head, and I always was like, should I mention this to people? Like when I did get into the, because I rarely brought up the paranormal in my life. I rarely told anyone for many years, and then all of a sudden, when I kind of did started, to talk about it, I was like, should I even mention this? Because what was it?
Yeah.
So MG, this is Doug. So can you just kind of go through some of the major milestones of high strangeness in your life and kind of start? So we've already gotten the 2-year-old. Can you just keep going and just hit some of the milestones that are really had an effect on your life?
Oh gosh. Well, so growing up neurodivergent, I mean, if you talk to other neurodivergent people, whether it's ADHD or autism or what have you, we just kind of grow up as the square pegs. You know what I mean? We're desperately trying to fit in. We're desperately trying to understand, human behavior. So we're already on the outside. We're already kind of, just desperately trying to make sense of the world. And then here I'm having all these paranormal encounters, and I have no clue what I'm going through, because on one end, my father and his, wives, he's been married 6 times, his wives didn't believe in the paranormal. So I was always told I was crazy. I was imagining things. You're being difficult. Go back to bed. You just saw something. It's your imagination. You had a dream. Blah blah blah. On the other hand, my mother was in the paranormal world, but we're talking, late 70s, early 80s. So this sort of thing really wasn't discussed like it is today. Today we've got podcasts everywhere. We've got TV shows. We've got, all kinds of stuff. Whereas, in my day when I was growing up, I sound old now, but in my day,
Damn nabbit.
Damn nabbit. In my day, I walked backwards to school in the snow. I just didn't have that. I didn't have someone, you know what I mean? Like the Warrens, I still remember back then the Warrens were still considered kooks. Like no one was talking about, no one was making movies about them, they were considered kooks, and no one was believing that. And everyone, if you brought up the paranormal, if you weren't in a group that already believed it, you were just laughed at. So, that sort of thing wasn't really prevalent back then. So I didn't really know that my mom's world kind of was a part of this, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know that was part of the paranormal world. So I was pretty much all alone for the most part in what I was going through. And of course, when you're dealing with paranormal bullies, they almost delight in making you think you're going crazy. It almost seems that way. I've talked to so many people who have had all kinds of encounters, whether they be, throughout their childhood or, they move into a house or something starts happening and, they start doubting their sanity, and it's almost like whatever paranormal bully is picking on them seems to kind of enjoy that. So when I was little, my father remarried when I was about 3 years old, and he moved in with his new wife, stepmom number 1. I'd like to keep people's names out of it just to kind of keep everyone protected. But stepmom number 1 was, it was a pretty good household. There was, issues still, but it was, fairly stable. And I remember her apartment, her condo apartment, whatever you want to call it, was horribly haunted. I don't know what was in there to this. I mean, like now that I'm older and I've taken a big step back, I would love to go back and just kind of feel it out and see what it actually was. But something was in that apartment, and it was not friendly at all. And interestingly, there was an apartment below hers that you had to walk past in order to get to her apartment. And I don't know what it was, but every single time I passed that lower apartment, I just felt like something was in that apartment watching me, glowering. I mean, there was something in that apartment. And because we shared walls, those things could come through the walls, So that was my first real sort of malicious type activity that I experienced. And not only that, but stepmom number 1, her parents lived in Miami, so we would drive down to Miami, and their house was very haunted. They had the same sort of malicious activity. So I don't know if it was attached to them or what, but because they were, God-fearing people. They were Episcopalians, very strict, and, there was nothing nefarious going on there. Grandma was a saint, so was Papa. I mean, they were just good people. Why they had all this crazy activity in their house that attacked me, I don't know. I just know that it seems like the, bullies are bullies, whether they're physical bullies or they're paranormal bullies. They see someone that they like to pick on and they know won't fight back, and they're just like, oh goody, and they just kind of pounce on you. And
so was this like a living ghost, a negative entity? I mean, what?
I think it was
what
something
was this
very
thing?
negative. I don't know if it was demonic or not, because usually demons, and I know now this much, demons are there's so much evilness, it just radiates out of them. If there's a demon in a house and you show up on that curb, you can feel it from the house. So it could have been that, or it could have been just a very negative entity or entities. But I remember, at night especially, going over to stepmom number one's apartment. I remember being just tormented thoroughly throughout the night. And I mean, the minute I fell asleep, the minute my guard was down, it was just the bed would get kicked or hit. The covers would be ripped off. I would have something whisper in my ear. I would have something with really long, sharp, snaggy fingernails just grabbing at my feet all night long. When a thing would whisper in my ear, I would feel breath on my face. And I couldn't tell what it was saying. I just heard, and I would wake up with just breath on my ear and my face. It was terrifying. And I would wake up screaming. And, they would come in and say, oh, come on, you're just, imagining things. And then they would go back to bed. And sometimes if I begged enough, somebody would come and sleep in the bed with me, which helped somewhat. But it was one of those things where it was, I as a little kid, I'm kind of doubting my sanity. I'm like, what the hell am I going through? Because I couldn't physically see these things, but yet I could sense them. I knew they were there. I knew something was there. And I knew as soon as the lights went off, that was it. I wasn't going to sleep that night. And this went on weekend after weekend for years.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, and the
scary
worst,
stuff.
Yeah, it was terrible. And I remember the that it was all of that going on at around the age of 8 or 9. I moved in because my mother couldn't really support me anymore. She lost her business, so I then had to move in with my dad and stepmom number one. And I remember the scariest thing that ever happened was one night. I'm about 8 years old. I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm being tormented thoroughly that night. I mean, it was like whatever it was having a field day with me. So I finally got so fed up. I said, "That's it." And stupidly, I don't know what I was thinking. I was 8, but I was like, "I know. I'll go into the living room and sleep on the couch because there, my parents' bedroom was right there. So if something happened, I could run." So something thoroughly spooked me. It went beyond, because normally I would just put the covers over my head and just try to deal with it and go to sleep. But something thoroughly spooked me that night. I could hear noises. I could hear whispers. It was really scary. So I thought, okay, that's it. I'm not staying in this room, because I felt really threatened. I felt like, okay, if I stay in this room, something bad's real bad's gonna happen. So I remember laying on the couch, and I remember seeing like the clock on the VCR. So that tells you what kind of help that dates me. But yeah, I saw on the VCR it was like 8. It was like 5:30. So I thought, okay, I don't have to get up until about 7 or 8 or so to go to school. So, I get a few hours sleep out here and I'll be safer, or so I thought. And I no sooner dozed off and something jumped on me. And I don't know what this thing was. I didn't see it, but I could feel the weight of it on me. It was probably all of like 2 or 3 feet tall. And wow. I could feel something on me. It was holding my arms down. So my forearms or my biceps, were down there. It was completely pinned down. I could not move my legs. And I literally felt a hand over my eyes, and I felt a hand over my nose and mouth. And so I can't scream. I can't breathe. And this thing is hissing in my face like a cornered animal, you know, just like hissing and snarling in my face. And I remember, of course, you know, this happens right when I'm asleep. So I wake up and this thing's on me. I'm now looking under whatever this hand over my eyes. I'm looking underneath it because I can still see, and I don't see anything. And I remember thinking, wait, what the hell? There's something on me and I can't see it. And I remember just being completely perplexed by that, but I couldn't breathe. And I was, you know, really quickly running out of air. And I don't know what happened. I heard in my head something say, grab it by its arms and throw it down. And I don't know how I knew this, but I reached up. I could feel little spindly arms in my hands. And I threw this thing down on the ground. And I could hear it hissing and snarling as it scampered away, I guess. And of course, I'm terrified. I'm gasping for air. I'm freaking out, and I'm like looking everywhere. And there, you know, there's only like a dim light on, so I can still see, but I'm looking behind the couch. Where the hell did this thing go? And I, for the life of me, never found it. I never saw it, but I couldn't go to sleep after that. Where was I going to go? And I didn't want to, you know, wake my parents up because I know I was going to get yelled at. So I basically sat on that couch for a few hours, did not move. Hugging my knees the whole time and just basically waiting till the sun came up, you know.
Was this like a nightly assault or what was, I mean?
Well, I mean, I would go through nightly assaults with, you know, whispering in my ear, kicking the bed, you know, something laying on back and forth, something sit on the bed or lay on the bed. Like I said, the covers being ripped off, things, you know, things with, you know, something with sharp, felt like sharp fingernails would just grab my feet all night. So I was tormented every single night. But this little impish type thing, this was the first and last time that's ever happened. And after that, I mean, I walked around. I remember getting up, going to school, and I remember just the whole day going, what the hell was that? And is it going to come back? I mean, I was just terrified.
Wow. That's something else.
And you didn't have anybody to talk to. Correct?
No, not really. I mean, I didn't really realize I could maybe talk to my mom about this. And what could she do? You know, she wasn't living there. And my dad and stepmom just did not believe it. I remember I was older at this point, and I remember I started to kind of clue in. And I started to, you know, I was older, I thinking, okay, I think what is attacking me is a ghost, maybe, or something. So I remember and again, there wasn't much back then, you know, early 80s. So I got a book that was talking about ghosts and spirits. And I remember I approached my stepmother, who was in just another couple aisles down. And I ran over to her and I said, you know, this is what I'm going through. And she vehemently just denied it. It was really weird how she denied it. She was like, no such thing. You know, those things don't exist. You're just imagining things. And I was like, is this who she is? Or maybe did something happen to her and this is how she's coping with it? I don't know. But yeah, she did not believe it, and that was not good. You know, when you're a little kid and you're, you know, scared to death, and you can't even go to the people who are supposed to protect you. It's terrifying.
Do you remember ever having any marks on you or scratches or?
I don't know. I don't remember that. I probably did, but I was a typical, you know, ADHD kid. I had bruises everywhere, so I was constantly running into things. So, but I don't remember exact scratches. I could have and just not even made the connection. No. You know, again, I was just trying to make sense of all this. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm being tortured by something I can't see. Am I losing it? Was my, you know, I mean, as a kid, I really thought it was crazy. I was like, what am I going through? You know? Sure. You didn't hear about stuff like that back then.
But if you think about it, you had a ton of courage. I mean, you obviously had enough smarts to know somehow instinctively that you were going to be okay.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's times when I really, you know, like when that thing jumped on me and it was, you know, had its hand over my mouth, I honestly thought I was going to die. I was terrified. And, you know, I just, again, what am I going to do? I just kept going. I just, you know, I didn't know, I didn't know what to do. I hoped things would get better. They didn't, but I hoped that they would get better. And I just kept forging ahead. You know, I just kept living, you know.
One always wonders if there isn't millions of children being tortured right now by entities that, you know, we just don't know about.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's why one of the reasons why I started my podcast was because I realized after talking to quite a few people and also hearing other people on other podcasts, I realized, oh my gosh, this is a thing. This is a very widespread thing. Many of my friends, people that I've known for years, I had no idea. I started talking to them and they were like, no, I was tormented too as a kid. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a thing. This, people are, we got grown adults with kids who are still scared, and this is what brings me to paranormal PTSD. You have grown adults that are still terrified to sleep with the light off, or they're terrified to, sleep with the closet door open, or they're scared to sleep with they put something in front of their door because something would slam their door shut and then lock them in. Paranormal PTSD is a real thing. And I know that sounds very silly, but it is. And I know grown adults that are still struggling with it because of what they went through as, kids or teenagers. So,
Yeah, I can only imagine all the people that do suffer. I mean, even me, I don't sleep in a totally dark room to this day. No way. No way. It's not happening. There's a light on. It's not bright, but it's still a light. I can wake up at any point and see what's in front of me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I do. So I have a light, and then if the light's bothering me, I just put an eye mask on or something. that's how I sleep.
Yeah. Joel, do you sleep in the dark?
Well, I'm a little bit different. I do sleep in the dark, but I'm also been a paranormal investigator for 25 years, where I will go in completely dark rooms, pitch black.
Yeah, but that doesn't make
Don't bother me one bit.
Investigating this stuff for 35 years, and I have no courage at all. None, zero.
No, but what I'm saying is, I don't know that I'm talking about the dark room stuff, and I don't know if you've done a lot of that, Doug, where you've gone in haunted houses and hung out and completely dark.
I haven't done the haunted house thing.
So what I'm saying though, I do sleep in the dark.
Yeah.
Personally, just because I can't sleep with the light on. That's just me being me. But I get it. I understand it. Because there again, I have never been attacked to the level that she's describing.
Well, I mean, what you're talking about, MG, is absolutely horrifying.
Yeah, where I have never experienced an assault on that level.
I experienced something one night similar when I was probably about 14, and I heard laughing in the room, just a bunch of voices coming all around me, and something then grabbed my leg. And that will put a chill that if I think even now I'm getting a chill from it. It's just
So then the only reason why I say that is I'm used to the dark for doing that physically, but mentally I've never been attacked like you two are describing.
Yeah.
So I've never had to live through anything like that. And I mean, obviously knock on wood, because I have been, I have brought things home other people have experienced. Yeah. And they have said that tormented them. My wife, when I was doing a lot of the haunted house stuff, the paranormal, ghost paranormal investigation. The reason why I tapered back was I was bringing things home with me, and she would be the one to see it, and I wouldn't, and deal with it.
So, do you remember a lot of the visuals from these? These when you're going through this particular milestone in your life. I mean, do you have more than the one visual? Or do you have a whole bunch of visuals that you remember?
For me, I didn't. That's the thing. I never really had a lot of visuals. I was always so sensitive as an empath and a medium that I could pick up on things. So I could feel something, literally walk into the room, and I knew something was there watching me. And I didn't have to see it. I knew it was there. And so that was...
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
was there any warning? In other words, would you be laying there anticipating this, and some nights you wouldn't get the goosebumps or the feeling, or would you always have mental warning?
No, I would, again, I'm not trying to feel these things. I'm not trying to pick up on this stuff. I'm going to bed every night hoping I could get some sleep. I have this weird fear in the back of my head, like, okay, you're not going to sleep tonight, and I'm just like, shut up, don't talk to me. I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to sleep. And I would go to sleep with that hope every night, stupidly with that hope every night that I would, at least get some sleep. I would at least get, not as tormented, or at all. You know what I mean? I just had that constant hope, like, okay, I'm going to get some sleep. And sure enough, something would happen. And some nights were worse than others for some reason,
So in your adulthood now, I would, I don't want to, probe too deep into your personal life, but I'm sure you've slept with other people in the room with you. Mm-hmm. If you have a sleep partner, can you sleep without the lights on? If you have that other person there?
I could. That's having someone else there is a bit comforting. But I remember when I was with my ex just a few years back, I had something in my apartment. It was around 2013, and I remember he would be dead to the world. It would be mostly dark in the room, and I could hear someone walking around on the floor and not see anybody, and he was right beside me, and I remember just like, oh no. Yeah. So I mean, I was still, if something wants to bother you, I think it's just going to bother you. It doesn't matter if the light is on or not. I mean, I've had every scenario. I thought, okay, I'm asleep with the light on. Well, if there's something creepy, it's still going to get you. You know what I mean? If it's determined to get you, it's going to get you.
Yeah, because my most profound paranormal experience happened in broad daylight. I mean, it was, the lights were all on.
Yeah. Whatever it is. I mean, we have these thoughts in our head thinking, okay, if I just have the light on, I'll be safer. If I have someone with me, I'll be safer. But are you really, are we really
I think
safer?
Though,
I mean, you hear these stories about people who have had full-on attacks with their partner right next to them.
Yeah, but I think, MG, I think the light for maybe you, and I don't want to speak for Doug, but I will for a minute there, is kind of like a security blanket, though. You can at least physically see what's around you if something is happening. Yeah, I mean, you have
but it's almost like we're kind of lying to ourselves in a way.
Well, instant recognition, okay, I'm in my room. I can see this, I can see that. I get, I mean, it's that security of, because our eyesight is one of the biggest senses that we rely on. That and our hearing. They're the two biggest senses that we rely on. You take away one of them, and things can become very different.
Yeah. That's true. Plus, Joel, we don't know, maybe the light prevents those entities from bothering us. We don't know.
Sure. We
don't know what effect it has.
Yeah, I think there definitely could be something to that.
So
I've noticed though with the light, I mean, if something wanted to get to me, it would. But I do notice that with the light, it wasn't as bad. The pestering wasn't as bad. So maybe there is something to the light theory. I don't know. I just know that I felt better personally.
Yeah, well, that's all that really matters. Because at the end of the day, we're kind of talking about personal empowerment anyway, right?
Yeah. So to keep things chronological, can you get into the next kind of high strangeness milestone? And
so I continue to live. Like I said, my dad was my mom lost her business. I then went to live with my dad and his second wife, my first stepmom, and then by the time I was about 9 years old, Dad was already moving on with stepmom number 2 and wife number 3. So that was fun, and I ended up moving a couple of, actually 3 places with my dad. We lived in the 8th lane. There was like a townhouse, and there was something in there. I'm just convinced that if you share walls with people, there's just no really escaping anything paranormal, especially when you're as sensitive as I was. And there was stuff in the room there. I could feel stuff. It's strange. Like there were times when, these things weren't malicious. I didn't feel anyone grabbing me or anything like that, but I could sense the presence in the room. I could sense being watched, and that was enough to creep me out. But nothing malicious, super malicious happened there. I could always feel someone, like if I was walking around, I could feel someone near me. And I would be like, okay, excuse me, like I could feel someone like, you know when someone's right behind you and you turn around and there they are. It was kind of like that, but yet I couldn't see them. So that was that. And then we moved into another house, which was on Grove Road. And I remember that place, it was weird. It was like I had interactions, but yet they weren't super malicious. It was almost more curiosity than anything. And again, I would have the covers ripped off my bed in the middle of the night. I slept with a nightlight on, and it just seemed like it just didn't do any good. And I remember we had a dog, and the dog used to come into the room and sleep on the bed with me because I don't know, I almost had a feeling it knew I was possibly under attack. So, but yeah, so we lived in that house, and then we moved into what I call the Boonies house, which was out in the middle of nowhere. And there was something very strange on that property. We built a house out there. There was this one area that my mom, being, always being sensitive to, she walked. I showed her the area because there was we had just poured the foundation, and the walls hadn't been put up yet. But we were walking on the foundation, and I was like, yeah, so this is my room, and this is the kitchen, and I was showing her all this stuff, and then all of a sudden she walks, and I had toured the site several times with my dad and his third wife, and I always felt very weird in this one particular area, and I felt like something was there, like something was watching me. It was right there. It was just a very strange energy signature, but it was right there. And of course, me being, all of 12 years old, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just imagining that. And then I showed my mom, and I didn't say a word to my mom, and my mom passed that spot, and she stopped dead in her tracks, and she looked at it, she goes, there's something over here. I feel something. I said, I know, I feel something there too. I thought it was crazy. She's like, no, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but there's something not right there. And sure enough, I said, the house went up, and we moved in. And right where that weird feeling was where my grandpa's room was he was supposed to move with us, but he didn't want to move. He didn't like the weather. So anyway, that was his room, and it ended up being a guest bedroom. And I absolutely could not go in that room. I could feel like something was right there watching me. Even in I remember when we first moved in, and my bed wasn't set up yet. My room wasn't set up. So I had to sleep in the living room on the pull-out couch for like a couple of weeks. And I remember I could hear something being very faintly whispered. I felt like there was things around me watching me and just like observing me and talking about me. And yet I couldn't see anything, and there was enough light in the room. I couldn't see anything, and I remember I just kind of, okay, and I just pulled the blankets over my head. And again, I never, even if you're not being physically attacked, you still don't sleep well in places like that, because you just know, okay, there is something watching me, and you just don't sleep well. You just feel a presence. It's just it's very creepy. So that
did
happened.
you ever, MG, I don't mean to stop you, but did you ever just stop and say, what the hell do you want?
Oh God, yeah.
Just try to confront it and try to take control of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in that house, the Boonies house, I didn't really think to do that, but I did that as I got older. As I got older and older, I was more like, I just kind of grew balls, and I just kind of was like, okay, I had seen so much by the time I was like 15, 16 years old. And by that time, if something came at me, I knew, I just knew that I could kind of communicate with these things. It hit me at a certain age, because I didn't know why I was sensitive. I thought, again, growing up and being able to see and feel these things and hear them, I thought, okay, at times I would think, well, am I the only one that can do this? Or can other people do this? Like, I had no idea what a medium was. I didn't know nothing. So I was real just confused all the time. I then moved back in with my mom when I was like 14. And she, at that point, had become a Christian. So I then kind of became a Christian too. And then, through all this churchy stuff, I started to learn about the spiritual realm, or what, Christians call the spiritual realm or the paranormal. I think all of this is just the paranormal. It really is. And so, all these angels, demons, Jesus, all of it's the paranormal. We just call it different things, to make ourselves feel better. But I started learning about all this stuff, and I started learning, that if you saw something bad and you wanted to make it go away, you said, in the name of Jesus, go away. So I kind of felt a little protected at that point. And I had things coming at me. I mean, we have, kind of a strange mix, because my mom, the house that I moved into with my mom, she was staying there, and she had just, there was an older lady that she had been taking care of, and she was there. And my mom told me, and why I didn't think to ask her about this, but she said, yeah, when I first moved in here, I was thoroughly tormented. And for my mother was spiritually formidable. I mean, nothing bothered her. Nothing scared her. She was nerves of steel, this woman. She was tough as nails, and nothing really bothered her. But she said she just knew. I would wake up with my nose touching the ceiling. I would wake up like floating. And she would wake up. Yeah, she would wake up hearing very loud bangs and just very like unusual sounds that, the old lady was in bed that she was taking care of. So she was like, where is this horrible noise coming from? It was coming from like almost within the walls. And it wasn't rats or anything. We didn't have that back then. This sounded like someone was tearing the place apart. And so that was terrifying for her. When I moved there, there was a few things that I experienced. I remember hearing chains being dragged across the floor and hearing footsteps and hearing things walk around. And then I remember my mom and I, we moved into what we called the villa. My father was on wife number 4 at this point. And I remember we moved into this villa. It was basically a townhome. I guess she called it a villa because it sounded fancier. But we moved into this villa, and again, we shared walls. And the guest bedroom had a very creepy presence to it, to the point where you just knew something was in there watching you. Again, the same thing. And,
do you think it was the same, not to stop you again, MG, but do you think it was the same entity each time? Was it following you?
I don't think so. Because there were plenty of times where I would be in a place and I really didn't have the same feeling. It wasn't the same activity. I just think that whatever was there saw me, and it was like, oh, here's someone who can see me, and let me torture her because she's a scaredy cat, And I remember one night, because we had a roommate, so the roommate took the guest bedroom, the creepy one. He slept in there, and I slept in the room with the master bedroom with my mom, because just safe space. And I remember I was sleeping there, and all of a sudden one night, and the room was lit. There was plenty of light from the porch light, and I remember I was woken up to this rummaging sound, something. And I woke up and I sat up on my elbows, and I'm looking over at this cabinet that we had Advil in. And I remember our roommate, he had really bad neck aches and headaches, and he would just always taking Advil. And I remember I saw him perfectly, because he had he had dark hair and he had a mustache and beard. And I remember seeing him going through the cabinet, and I could hear the noise of the rummaging and everything. And I'm just like, and I sat up and I called his name, and I said, what are you doing? Why are you so noisy? And he turned around, looked right at me, and disappeared into thin air. And I was just like, oh my God. And I laid back down. You don't see
that every day.
Yeah, that was my first doppelganger type, experience, and I didn't know what to do. I pulled the covers up really high, and I was just like, what did I just see? Because I heard the rummaging in the cabinet. I saw him with my own 2 eyes, and he just disappeared. I just couldn't believe it. And I thought, okay, whatever's in here is playing games, My mom and I then moved into a townhome of our own, and we, experienced a few things there. There was one night I had this very terrifying, I don't know if I do want to call it a dream, because I don't know much about out-of-body experiences. I don't know much about reincarnation. Again, I'm all, kind of new to all this stuff. I don't really know much about this, but I do remember I had this one really terrifying encounter where I went to sleep and I woke up like I was in someone else's body. And I remember looking all around and being very confused, because I knew I wasn't me, but yet I was me. And again, like those first experiences that I had, I was split in some way. And I remember being in this body, and I remember looking all over like, okay, this isn't me, but this is me. What's going on? And I was in some sort of, it looked like a bathroom that had been dismantled, and there was like a rebar door, like a makeshift door. So this was like some sort of makeshift cell. And I was being held in here, and I had no idea why. And I remember something said, find a mirror and look in it, because you're not you. I just knew I wasn't me. And I remember looking in it. I found this old mirror on the wall that was like a medicine cabinet. And I remember I looked at this face, and I saw an old man's, like an older man's face. And I remember just looking at it going, okay. And I saw my face, like an overlay. I saw my face over this man's face. And I was like, okay, I'm an older man. Why? And I remember something said, reach into your pocket and pull out something. It's going to tell you who you are. And so I pulled out, it was a ripped page of the Bible. And it was like Isaiah 54 or something. I don't know. But I remember thinking, okay, am I a preacher? Like, why am I here? What am I doing? What is going on? And all of a sudden, I remember I hear down the hall, and everything is very gray, green, you know, everything is, there's no, this isn't like a regular prison cell. And I remember it was just very sparse, but I remember looking down the hall, and I remember that there were these two soldiers. They were speaking a foreign language that I kind of understood, but I kind of didn't. And I remember they were leading this group of children. And this group of children was, you know, from like, you know, 5 years old to like maybe 15. And there was about 10 or 20 of them. I mean, it was a good sizable group. And these soldiers were leading these kids into this room with a really big, heavy door. And this metal door had a very big latch on it. It was probably about a foot thick or more. It was this heavy door, and I was like, what is this? You know, again, I'm trying to make sense of everything. And so I asked one of the soldiers through the bars, I said, what are you doing? And he said, this has to be done. Shut up and mind your own business. And they latched the door behind these kids, and I realized right then and there what was going on. I thought, oh my God, they're going to kill those kids. This is a gas chamber.
Family. It looks a little different for everyone. For some, it's mom and dad. For others, roommates who feel like family. And for others, it's your significant other, their golfing buddies, your children, a high school soccer team starting lineup, and oh look, they're all taking you up on the offer to stay for dinner, really testing the limits of that phrase, the more the merrier. But no matter where you call home, Geico makes it easy to bundle and save on home and car insurance. Easier than making 3 frozen pizzas and assorted frozen veggies into a cohesive meal.
And I came unglued. I started screaming and crying, and I grabbed the soldiers through the bars, and I grabbed him, and I said, please, no, take me instead. You know, I'll go in their stead. Please don't, you know, save the kids. Don't let the kids go. Please take me instead. And I begged and pleaded. I have never felt more helpless, hopeless in all of my life. It was like I was watching the most hideous thing happen, and I couldn't do a damn thing about it. And I was coming unglued. So the soldier pulled away from me and just said, this has to be done. And they literally left, walking down the hallway, laughing, joking about whatever. And they just killed these kids, you know, or they were going to kill these kids. And I was just like screaming, crying, begging them to come back. Please take me instead. Please take me instead. I remember I was shaking so bad that I woke up, and I don't even know how to explain this, but I woke up to what felt like my soul, my spirit, I don't know, my body, I don't know, landing back into my body with a thud. I mean, I went boom, and I like bounced up, and I sat up, and I remember I had a mirror in front of me in my bedroom, and my hair and my shirt, everything was soaked with sweat and tears, and I was just losing it. And that dream has never left me. It's still very fresh, and I still don't know what it was. I still don't know what that encounter was. I mean, I have lots of lucid dreams. I dream all the time, and for some reason, this was not a dream. I honestly felt like I had fallen back into my body. So yeah, that was one of the experiences in that apartment. I also remember I had my first UFO encounter, and my first and only, thankfully. I don't think I can handle another one, but this one was absolutely terrifying. I still remember it was about 1995, and I think I was about 18, or I just turned 18, or was going to. I was in the South. I was, my mom and our roommate, they were going to this home church. And I really did not want to go to this church anymore. I was sick of going in there, dealing with these, hypocrites. Half the people in there were just monsters. So I just really didn't want to go in there. And I kind of flipped out one day when it was nighttime. It was, probably about like 6 or 7. And I remember I just freaked out. And I told my mom, I said, I'm not going in there. I can't go. I can't do this anymore. I'm not going in there. She was like, okay, cool, whatever. You don't have to. Just stay out here. And just, if anything happens, it wasn't a bad neighborhood, but it wasn't the greatest. And she's like, okay, if something happens, just come in, just whatever. But she was really cool about it. So I was like, okay, fine. So I remember I'm standing on this pond. And if you know from being in the South at all or being near a pond, there's tons of toads and bugs and critters. And, they're everywhere. And so when those toads, thousands of them, hundreds and thousands of them, if they're croaking, it's deafening. You can't hear anything else. So I was out there at night, standing in front of this pond, and all these toads were croaking. It was deafening. I couldn't hear anything else. And other than, maybe some, the singing from the church, I maybe heard, other little things, other little critters and stuff like that. But there was plenty of noise. And I remember just looking up at the sky going, okay, great, I got to be out here for 4 hours. And I was just like, I was dreading it. And I remember I was looking up at the sky. I was trying to distract myself because I was starting to get a little anxious. And I was like, no, hold your nerve. Just don't go in there. Don't get freaked out. Don't go in there. You just stay out here. You'll be fine. So I was talking to myself and I'm like, okay, I could do this. So I'm looking up at the sky, and again, this is happening within seconds and half seconds. This happens so fast, and I'm just drawing it out so that you guys can, know what I'm talking about. But I'm looking up at the sky, and there's no moon. There's no stars. There's no clouds. There's nothing. The sky is a very weird, inky black. It's almost like felt. It's almost like, if you're looking at a felt background, like a black felt background, it's really fuzzy looking. And I'm just like, what the hell is that? And I'm just looking, and I'm like, wow, the sky looks so weird tonight. What is going on? And I remember I then noticed, and again, half seconds here. I'm okay, sky is weird. All of a sudden, there's no sound. All of the sound is gone. It's like someone muted the planet. And I'm getting these really intense, terrifying rushes of fear, terror, dread, danger, run. You're in danger. Something's going to get you. Like at any minute, something, by every hair on my neck stood up. And I'm freaking out. I'm looking all around because I'm thinking someone is sneaking up on me, and I'm picking up on that. So I'm looking all around, and I'm not seeing any humans. But all of a sudden, in the sky, again, half seconds, where there wasn't a cloud, all of a sudden there's just like really thin strip of clouds, and it wasn't really that far off. And I remember there was really thin strip of clouds, and I remember I saw 3 lights that were going around in this very sort of intricate figure 8 formation. Now, I was so concerned about being attacked, because that's what it felt like, that I literally was just looking all around going, what the hell is that feeling? And I saw the lights, and I remember in our crappy little southern town, my mom, whenever she saw those lights, she would say, oh, a car dealership's having a sale. So every time I saw those lights, I said that. Car
dealership's having a sale.
She would always say that. That was like her thing. Because we didn't live in Los Angeles, so anytime we saw those lights, we knew it wasn't anything fancy, So my mom was like, car dealership's having a sale. So I guess she went to a car dealership and they had a sale and they had the lights out or something. But anyway, she would always say that. So I said that too. So I look at the lights, and of course I'm looking all around because I'm freaking out about this weird, creepy feeling that something is going to jump out at me. And I literally see the lights, and for a half second, I look at the lights and I go, yeah, car dealerships having a sale, whatever, blah. And I remember turning to my left, thinking someone is going to, I'm looking everywhere. Someone's going to come out and get me. All of a sudden, I hear telepathically, look at the lights again. And that was not my thought. And I remember slowly, like, whoa, and I remember turning my head to the right. And I remember seeing, like, really looking at these lights. and seeing them for what they really were. These lights were not spotlights hitting, there was no beams going up. They weren't hitting the clouds. They were in the clouds, and they were very bright. And again, within seconds, my brain is debunking all of this. So I'm like, okay, it's not a helicopter, not a plane. And we didn't have drones back then like we do now. So there was nothing like this, and there was no buzzing sound. This thing was completely silent. And within the clouds, there were these just very three bright lights, and they were moving in this very intricate, almost figure 8 formation. And they weren't running into each other. It was just so perfect the way they were moving. And I remember as I'm looking at these lights and I'm really starting to figure out, wait a minute, these aren't spotlights. What is this? I kept getting that creepy feeling, and I went, oh my God, that creepy feeling is this. This thing was stalking me.
Oh,
and I remember, oh, the creepy feeling is this thing. And I remember it got really, whatever it was, I had some sort of weird telepathic connection with this thing, because every time it did something, I felt it. And whenever I did something, it reacted. So I remember looking at these 3 lights, and they were just, again, moving in this very intricate figure 8 formation. And as soon as my brain, within a second of my brain going, wait a minute, this ain't right. This ain't right. This ain't normal. The lights stopped what they were doing, and they started moving perfectly in a circle, following each other. And it was almost like it wanted me to see it. It was like trying to scare me. And it was almost like a bully. And I just looked at this thing and I was like, what the hell is, oh my God. And I went, wait a minute, this ain't right. And then all of a sudden it stops, this intricate formation right where they were, started moving around the circle. And I heard in my head, we're not supposed to be here, and we know you know it. And it was so taunty. It was such a schoolyard bully taunt. And it was almost, I could look back and laugh at it now, but back then, it was terrifying. And I remember looking at it, and again, I was, in the Christian world at this time. So if you want something, make something bad go away, you say in the name of Jesus, right? I'm looking at this thing, and I'm getting angry because I'm like, you don't come to my planet and start picking on me. I don't know who the hell you think you are. And I think my southern feistiness and whatever I resolved, at this point I was 18, I'd seen a whole lot of stuff. So I think I just got really mad, and I just looked at it like, who do you think you are bullying me? I don't think so. And I remember saying it, getting really mad. And I remember as I'm getting angry and as I'm getting madder, the light started to speed up faster and faster and faster and faster. And I remember, because it was reacting to whatever I was doing. So if I was getting angry, this thing was like, and I with every bit of strength and just that I had in me, I looked at this thing and I pointed at it. I said, you're not supposed to be here. And in the name of Jesus, you better get out of here right now. And this thing took off so fast, again, no sound, that if I had blinked, I would have missed it. It flew right on out of that cloud. And it left a streak. And of course, I remember being terrified. I was like, oh my God, what did I just see? So I remember I ran into the, as much as I didn't want to go in there, I was about to stay outside. So I ran into the home church, the apartment that it was being held in. And I remember I didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't say anything, because these were, super Christians. These were fundamentalist super Christians. And if I said anything, it was like, oh, that was the devil. So I didn't really know what to say. So I remember I found this, because it was an apartment. So I found the staircase. No one was in there. And I just literally sat in the staircase and hugged my knees. I didn't know what the hell to do. I was just like, oh my God. And I remember my mom saw me, and I must have been white as a sheet, because she came around the corner and she looked at me and she said, what's wrong with you? What happened? She knew something was up. And I was like, I saw something. I whispered. I said, Mom, I saw something. And she said, okay, don't say anything here. We'll go home and talk about it. So we went home. I told my mom. My mom had her own UFO encounter, an abduction encounter. And I then told her. And so, because she had her own encounter, she totally believed me. And I told her our roommate, he totally believed me. So we just kind of was like, my mom said, look, don't tell nobody. Because the people we hang around with, they're going to think you're going to say you brought the devil and all this stuff. Because I was kind of the black sheep. I wasn't really fully into the whole Christian thing. So they're going to say you brought the devil. It's just like, don't tell nobody. You didn't see nothing. Okay. And I said, okay. I didn't say nothing. So the next weekend, at the next meeting, I'm sitting inside because I ain't going to sit outside at this point. So I'm sitting inside, and I'm sitting on the end of this very long couch and trying to just be as far away from everybody as possible. But not outside, because I didn't want to risk that. But I remember I was sitting on this couch, and I sat through the whole, meeting. But I remember sitting there, and in walked the parents of my very recent ex-boyfriend. And these people were Christian and then some. These people did not believe. There was, according to them, the devil was under every rock. And they did not allow anything but the Bible in their house. They would not allow magazines. There was no books. There was no newspapers, because that had negative.
They wouldn't allow any non-secular items in their home.
Yeah. So I remember I actually went in that house with my boyfriend. We were dating, and I remember I wore a T-shirt that had a dream catcher on it. And I remember they freaked out. They were like, "Oh, it's not the devil." And they would not let me leave until I took off that shirt, and they burned it while praying. Yeah, that's how religious they were. But these people, the husband and wife, they walked in, and they looked absolutely traumatized. They had this look like they had just seen not just one ghost, but about 20. Everything in the world had been shook up, and you could tell that they were just out of their minds, terrified. And they clung to each other like a couple of scared monkeys. And I remember just going, what? And everybody noticed it. Everyone was like, what is going on with those two? And they came in, they sat down, and for the entire meeting, they did not say anything. They just sat there clinging to each other, looking absolutely terrified. After the meeting, when we would get up and have coffee and, soda or cookies, cake, whatever, we would get up and talk to people or pray, whatever, for them. Somewhat, they would usually get up and talk and, mingle. They weren't getting up off the couch. And everyone was like, what? Okay, something is real bad wrong with these two. What is going on? So a couple of people volunteered, and I'm sitting there. I'm not moving. I don't want to be there, and I just can't wait till this thing is over. So I'm literally sat on the couch, and I remember a few people came in and just said, I could hear them talking to each other, like, we should see something, we should ask them, we should check on them, we should, So they went over, and I remember them saying, are you guys okay? Do you need prayer? What's going on with you guys? You guys don't act right. And they looked up so pitifully at this guy that was asking them. And they were stuck in such a trauma loop that they kept going, we saw something, we saw something, we saw something, we saw something. And they could not stop saying it. And finally the guy was like, okay, what did you see? So according to them,
what's the big deal? Where can you get pizza, bread twists, specialty chicken, and more for just $5.99 each?
Is it at Domino's?
He hands off hand-tossed pizza and a marble cookie brownie. He's going!
There's a lot of variety on the radio and at Domino's too, where you can
Mix and match 2 or more. $5.99 each at Domino's.
2-item minimum. Pan pizza, bone-in wings, and bread bowls will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary.
You coming to bed, hon?
Yep, honey, I'll be right there. Just gotta turn out the light. Ow! Ow!
Some things never change. Like your kids always leaving tiny toys on the floor for you to step on. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Sweetie, I think I left the downstairs light on.
Please don't make me go.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
now again, nobody knows that I've seen these lights. But according to them, they were driving home the night that I had seen the lights. They were driving home, and they had further to go than we did. We lived 5 miles away. They lived like 10 or 15 or something.
Yeah.
So they were driving home, and they were in a very, and I knew where their house was. It was a very heavily residential area, heavily populated, people everywhere. I don't know what this thing was, but they said that as they were driving home, they were almost home, and something very heavy and metallic landed on the roof of their truck. And they said it landed with a big, they said it landed with a very big clang, like a heavy metal trash can. And someone just slammed it down. And they said whatever this thing was, because they couldn't see it, they said whatever this thing was trying to pick up their truck for at least a half mile. And they said the front of their truck was lifting up for about a half mile. These guys, being the super Christians that they were I'm sure praying. They said they were praying away, praying, in the name of Jesus, let us go, blah, 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 blah. And they said that eventually this thing gave up and unlatched them. And as it did, of course, their car kind of jumped back down. But this thing flew off, I guess. But this was, something that happened to them. And they just could not believe it. They got up every morning saying, no, there's only Jesus and angels and demons and the devil. That's it. That's all there is out there. Mm-hmm. And they ended up having this very strange encounter that I'm sure to this day couldn't even, they don't know. I lost contact with them. I don't know if this made them more Christian, or maybe it opened their minds to something, like, hey, there's something else out there. But these people, when I was there, a full week later, they were still severely traumatized. Everything in their world had been turned upside down at that point.
That's insane.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard a story where some UFO was trying to lift a car.
Well, that's interesting because I didn't either. And I thought this was, did this really happen? Like, really, and I kind of believed them because, these two, again, they did not believe in UFOs. So if they're having a UFO encounter, something's up. But I recently had, within a few months ago, I had Deb Cobble. Deb Cobble. She was Bud Hopkins, and she was in the subject of The Intruders.
Yeah, that was her pseudonym, correct?
Yeah, I think Deb Cobble is her real name.
Oh, that's her real name. Okay.
Deb Jordan Cobble or White Cobble. But I asked her, I was like, what is your name? She's like, I have a lot of names. But I interviewed her, and she's a great guest. She's a great person. I love her to pieces. She's so sweet. And I talked to her about her sister's encounter, and this really shook me because she said, my sister was in a church parking lot waiting for my mom to get out of a bingo, event or something, and a UFO picked up her car and abducted her and dropped her back off, I guess, like a few hours later or something. Mm-hmm. So that was the only other story I've ever heard of a car being abducted.
It's weird. Yeah, the fact that you're telling they tried to pick up their car and couldn't, they're lucky they weren't in a smart car.
Yeah, right.
Would have been gone.
Yeah, they were in a tiny little pickup. I still remember it. But I think, who knows? Maybe there is something to this whole in the name of Jesus, get away, go away kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I don't know. But they said for a good half mile, this thing they said, they warred in the spirit. And this thing definitely tried to pick up their car and eventually gave up, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Wow.
But this traumatized them. Yeah, thoroughly.
That's some high strangeness indeed.
Yeah.
So let's flash forward a little bit. What is kind of going on, let's say 10 years ago?
Well, my last real severe paranormal situation happened when I had moved to LA, and I had gotten my own apartment, and I was living in a place near Burbank, and it was, it's LA, so there's, as a medium, I can feel a lot of stuff going on here. But this particular apartment, and I hate sharing walls with people, but this particular apartment didn't feel too bad. It felt okay. And I was able to come and go, and I got this apartment in November of 2011. And I had these really great neighbors across the way. There was this really great family, super sweet. They argued a lot. They fought a lot. The husband and wife were always at each other's throats, but they were really nice to me, and they were just super sweet people. They moved out, and this other couple moved in. And as soon as they moved in, I didn't like them. There was something wrong there. And then they were mean to their kid, and they were mean to their dogs, and I'm like, okay, I don't like these people at all. But something shifted. Something happened. And I remember it started out with me. I have 3 dogs, so I was walking my dogs, and I noticed, and this was around 2013, maybe early, like late 2012, early 2013. I remember leaving, I would walk my dogs to where I could see my door. And I would not lock my door because I could see it from where I was standing. And nobody would go into my apartment, but yet every time I come back, it felt like someone had been in my apartment. And I'm like, all right, someone snuck in. What the hell? And I'm looking, and I'm going crazy. I'm thinking I'm crazy. I'm thinking I'm crazy. I'm like, okay, but I can't shake the feeling. I don't know what I'm feeling here. It feels like something's in my apartment. Someone has just been in here. And I'm looking under beds. I'm looking in the closets. I'm looking behind, I'm even looking in cabinets. I'm looking in just everywhere that someone might be. And nobody's in there. But I could swear someone had just been in there. And I'm like, what the hell? Am I going nuts or what? And It started out very slow. It started out with me, okay, fine. I'm going to lock my door now. And I would lock my door, walk my dogs, come back, same feeling. And I'm like, this is insane. What is going on? It was just so strong. And then at night, I would see in the half light, because I didn't keep a lot of lights on, but I did keep some. And I would see, I would go out to the kitchen to get a snack or something. And I would see these fleeting shadows in the living room. And again, I'm just in an effort just to not freak myself out, because I'm alone at this point. I'm all by myself. And I'm like, okay, I just saw something. It's my reflection on the wall, blah, blah, blah. And I'm excusing it. I'm just trying to deal with it. Finally, I started, because I would watch TV in my room, started to feel like something was standing in a certain corner of my room. And I could see this image of this girl. And I'm like, no. Again, I'm excusing it away. I'm like, no, I'm totally imagining this. And I'm just trying to focus on the TV program. And I'm literally getting, again, just like someone is standing right there. Now, I had just adopted a dog that was deaf. So he was deaf, he could see, but he was deaf. And he kept looking at the same exact spot that I kept seeing, I kept feeling in this one corner. And he kept looking at that one corner, and he would just tilt his head from side to side like he was looking at something. He could see something. And as soon as he saw that, I was like, crap, there's something here. If he can see it, there's something here. So I remember the creepy feelings continued. I kept feeling this thing just standing there watching me. Wasn't saying anything. I mean, I wasn't, it was just standing there. I'm like, what is this thing? I remember one night I'm sitting on my bed, and I don't have my TV on yet. I'm just sitting there, and I'm playing with the deaf doggy, and I'm just playing with his ears, and I'm talking to him. And all of a sudden, I just happened to look up across the room, and I see this misty, wispy, shadowy type thing form, and it was only about 2 feet of it. And I see it glide. Like, I was only seeing a part of it, but I saw it glide across just a shadow. I saw it glide across the floor about 2 or 3 feet and then just dissipate. It just, misted out. And I remember I just lost my crap. I was like, oh my God, what is it? And I didn't.
Yeah.
This is the first time I actually saw, the first time I actually saw something in my head, in my eyes. I was like, I wasn't seeing it in my mind. I was seeing it with my eyes. And I panicked, and I grabbed the dogs, went for the longest walk of my life, and I was just literally downstairs going, what am I going to do? I'm all by myself. I don't know what to do. So I went back upstairs, and I opened up all the windows and all the doors, and I got my holy water and a Bible, and I just started praying through that whole place. And I said, I don't care what you are, but you ain't allowed to be here. You get out of here right now. And so I kept praying this thing away, and I kind of felt a little bit lighter, but of course I slept with the light on that night. And I was terrified. I was just like, oh my God, there is something in this. I did have to really admit. Anyway, the next few nights, again, sleeping with the light on, and I remember I finally got so fed up. I just said, okay, all right, I'm done with this. I'm done messing with you. And I felt this thing in this other corner. It moved from one corner to another. And I sat there at the end of my bed, and I just looked at it, and I said, okay, what are you? Who are you? What do you want? What's going on? What do you want with me? And I got the impression that this was, and again, I saw this image of the girl from The Ring. I don't know. I don't watch horror movies, so I don't really know. But I live in Los Angeles, so I figured I probably saw a billboard or something. So, you know, I excused that away. I thought, no, that's crazy. That's in a movie, and that's probably not what's going on. But I kept seeing that image. And I asked this thing, I said, who are you? What do you want? And I got the impression, me being the medium that I am, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to talk to this thing. So I remember this thing telling me it was a girl, it was a woman, and I had a feeling that it was attached to the woman that had just moved in across the way. And I had a feeling that it was like an aunt or a great aunt, like it was the grandmother's sister or something. I had a feeling I kept getting like a time frame of like the 30s and the 40s. Mm-hmm. And I kept seeing images of her being checked into a mental, like an asylum, you know, those big scary buildings where, you know, the family members, if you're not normal, the family members just dumped you there.
Yeah.
And you were subjected to lobotomies and all kinds of other horrors. And so I got the impression that this, and what I've noticed in my years of doing all this media work is that if someone is mentally disabled in life, they will be the same way in death. They are, if they have a hard time communicating in life, they have a hard time communicating in death. So this, you know, woman was having a hard time talking to me, but yet I was piecing together her life. And I kept feeling like her name was either Harriet or Margaret or something. And I kept feeling like she was, you know, mentally disabled. The family was ashamed. They locked her away, you know, at this asylum. Yeah. And she probably died there and somehow came back to the family, got attached to this one lady. I don't know. But I felt this thing just kind of, so for some reason she was attracted to me and was just kind of, you know, and I didn't really know what to do with her. I mean, it was pitiful, it was sad, and I just said, well, you're not welcomed here, so you have to leave. And jeez. I didn't feel much of a resolution at that point. A few nights later, my good friend Joe was a bit transient at that time. He was couch surfing and he didn't really have a place to stay. And he just called me. He's like, hey, I hate to bother you, but can I like sleep on your couch for a few days? And I was like, cool. Yeah, no problem. So I picked him up at the bus station and I drove him back to my place. And, you know, poor guy is like exhausted. So he's laying on the couch and he's falling asleep. And I'm like, okay, if you need to use the bathroom, there it is. And, you know, rate the bridge. I don't care. So I'm there and he's falling asleep. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. Bye. And I went to my room and I shut the door. And I no sooner got the covers up to my chin when all of a sudden I heard my name, Marie. I heard it being screamed. Blood-curdling scream from the living room. Joe was screaming my name. Marie, Marie, Marie. And I mean, I'm tripping over dogs. I'm like trying to get out of bed. I'm trying, you know, kicking covers everywhere. And I run out there and he's sitting on the edge of the couch, grabbing his throat, gasping for air. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? What's wrong? You know, and I'm losing it because, I mean, you know, here is my, you know, good friend. You know, I mean, I don't know what to think at this point. So he said, something just attacked me. And I said, what? What are you talking about? And I look at the front door and I check the front door. I've got 2 deadbolts and a door lock. Ain't nobody getting in there. And again, I'm looking at the windows. Windows were all locked up and I'm just freaking out. I'm now on the 2nd floor. No one can, you know, climb up there. And I'm just, what happened? Joe, what happened? And he said, as soon as you left, the energy of the room changed. Now, Joe was a bit of a sensitive himself. So he said the energy of the room completely changed. He says, I opened my eyes and he says to me, he says, you know the girl from The Ring? I said, yes. Because I didn't tell him about what I saw. He said, you know the girl from The Ring, you know, with the hair in her face in the hospital? I said, yeah. He goes, yeah, she was floating above me.
Oh, jeez.
He said he had the impression that she was maybe protecting me. He doesn't know. But he said, I told her, I saw her and I told her, he said to her, I'm not here to hurt Marie. He says, as soon as he said that, hands came up and grabbed him by the throat. And he felt a pressure on his chest and all the air being sucked out of his lungs. And he was being choked and strangled. And he said with his very last breath, he screamed my name. And as soon as he did, she turned around and flew out the window. And then I come running out and, you know, that's what happened. I was furious at that point because I was like, okay, come here and bug me, but don't kill my friends. Don't strangle my dear friend.
Yeah.
You didn't ask for that. So I got very upset and I started praying real hard at that point, and I was just like, do not ever come back. And I did have a few small incidences after that, but surprisingly, Joe stayed around, and he stayed there for a few more nights and then left. I don't know how he could. I don't think I could, but yeah, he stayed there, and poor guy. I mean, to this day, I lost contact with him, but to this day, I wonder. I'm like, oh my God, I would love to talk to him about that again. But yeah, so that was the last really big scary thing that happened.
Yeah,
quite an encounter. Wow.
The thing was, it was confirmed. I mean, you
had multiple witnesses.
It really confirmed what you had felt and seen, and crazy.
Yeah, because I had sat there and talked to this thing. I knew what I saw, but I excused it. I thought, no, I'm not gonna get into this. I probably just saw a billboard. I live in Los Angeles, so there's billboards of new movies coming out. I probably just whatever. And so I excused it, but that was the first thing he told me. He's like, yeah, that girl from The Ring, it was her. It would look like her.
Jeez.
And I thought, oh my God.
Hey, that would be something else. Talk about creepy and crazy and maybe even reaffirming at the same time because they had a witness that go around.
Yeah. So MG, are you still having issues?
No, I actually moved out of that apartment. My then boyfriend and he moved in, and to this day, I really don't understand what had happened. I was dating a combat vet, and he had PTSD, but he was managing it fairly well. And when he moved in, I don't know what happened, but it was almost overnight. He completely changed. He turned into a monster. He was very abusive, very mean and angry. This was, again, when when we first got on, I told you he would lay there and I could feel something and hear something walk around the room.
Yeah.
It was, whatever it was, I think was still there. And I think it may have done something because it didn't attack him physically, but there was something mentally that happened to him where he was just not the same after a few weeks of moving in.
Literally.
And yeah.
Basically like he was possessed.
Yeah, basically. Just whatever his PTSD was kind of dormant, everything came to the surface, and he got so bad he was screaming at me, just completely a different person. I didn't even recognize him. And it was within a matter of weeks that he did this after moving in. And it broke my heart, but I had to break up with him and I had to tell him to leave. And I remember before he left, and we were still on good terms, we were still, dating. We were still, planning to get married. I remember he was working at Warner Brothers Studios. And I remember one night I was trying to sleep and I just kept getting creeped out by something. I knew whatever it was in an apartment, and it was, just walking around and I could feel it. I was getting creeped out. And I remember I thought, okay, I'm just going to turn the TV on and I'm going to lay down and rest my eyes because he just texted me he's going to be home soon. And I remember I closed my eyes and the TV was on. And I remember I could very clearly see a person walk in front of the TV. And as soon as they cleared the TV turned off by itself. And I freaked out and ran out into the living room. And thankfully he was coming home right then. And I was just like, oh my God, I was just so glad not to be alone. But that was one of the last, sort of really terrifying things.
Wow, man. Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's talk about the book a little bit. Kind of another reason why you came here. What prompted you to write the book? I mean, obviously you have all these experiences, and I would imagine that folks can read more about these experiences in the book, right?
Yes, I have lots more experiences in detail. And it was just bare bones. When I wrote this, I was very inspired by Calvin Parker, from the Pascagoula incident. And, he being another Southerner, we just kind of are very blunt and to the point,
Sure.
And no frills, we just tell it like it is. And so I just kind of sat down and just said, I need to write this book. And for years, I never volunteered my paranormal encounters to anybody. except for when I felt really, really safe. Every once in a while, I would say something, and people would then be intrigued, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you got to write a book." And I was like, "Nah, no one wants to hear my dumb stories." And so I just kind of excused it, and I started my podcast because I was listening to a lot of other people and other podcasts, and I'm thinking, my God, there's, like we were starting to talk about, like there's a lot of people, thousands of people out there that have had encounters, whether it was that one encounter or it was a lifetime like me. And I noticed a lot of people had a lot of shame in telling their stories. They would always say, well, you might think I'm crazy, or I'm not crazy, I know what I saw. And it was like, wow, we really need to get over this. We need to get over this fear of telling our paranormal encounters. And I started my podcast to kind of be a safe space for people who want to share their paranormal encounters. You can do it anonymously. And I really, my heart just kind of broke for people that have had encounters and they don't know where to go. They've kept it inside. They haven't said anything. And so I started my podcast for people who can just come and say, look, I've had this encounter and blah, and just get it out, just talk it out. And
what's it called? What's your podcast called?
It's called the Boogeyman Chronicles.
Okay, well, just like the book.
Yeah,
okay,
just like
and
the book.
Where can people tune in to hear that? Where can they download that at?
It's right now we're just on YouTube. We're just really getting started, and I had to take a little bit of a break because I just had surgery, so I'm just recovering from that. But we've got a lot more guests coming on. And you know, I love the you know, the people that have had, like, you know, Terry Lovelace, who have, you know, very famously had the Devil's Den incident. But I also like hearing about, you know, just the person who doesn't have a book, you know, or it doesn't have a podcast, or is just, you know, that kind of person that had that one weird encounter or several or a lifetime, and they're like, I've never told this to anybody, but I just need to get this off my chest. I started my podcast for that reason. And also to normalize not just talking about paranormal encounters, but also normalize the concept of paranormal PTSD, because it is a real thing. And I can't tell you how many people I have spoken to or have heard who, again, like we just talked about, you know, sleep with the lights on or sleep with something in front of the closet door so it can't, you know, the boogeyman can't come out. I remember as I started my podcast, I kept jumping in to say, oh yeah, I've had that encounter, or oh yeah, I had something like that. And I really, it hit me, as far as the book, it really hit me like, okay, nobody really knows who I am because I'm very private, and nobody knows what I do. Nobody knows the experiences I've had. And so here I am jumping into other people's encounters, and maybe I should just write that damn book. You know what I mean? So that's what I did. I sat down one day and chronologically just recounted everything that I'd been through paranormal wise. And as I'm writing this, I'm going, holy crap, I've been through some stuff. I didn't even realize it. You know what I mean? Because you excuse stuff away, or you forget about it, you bury it. And so I started realizing, man, I think I really do need to tell my story. Yeah. So I wrote this book in hopes that, you know, maybe people can take a little, you know, solace in the fact that, you know, yeah, you may have been tormented as a kid or something, and you're not crazy. You know, you're not going insane. You're not crazy. You really did experience something. And if you have PTSD from that, that's a real valid thing, and you have every right to feel that way.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. It gives people.
So I've got a question. Why did you pick the name the Boogeyman?
My dad always classified everything as a boogeyman. So the boogeyman always stuck with me. Like anytime we would, you know, my dad he kind of believes in the paranormal more than he did when I was a kid, because he's had some things happen to him, which I put in the book. You know, he was in law enforcement, so he grew up not really believing much. And, you know, law enforcement people, they deal with facts only. You know, they don't believe in silly stuff. So he didn't really believe in the paranormal until he started experiencing things for himself. And everything that you know, if there was a weird knock at the door, if there was some, you know, nobody was there, or, you know, the phone rang and nobody was there, or something like that, you know, anything spooky or silly or kind of weird that happened, my dad would go, the boogeyman's here, you know. He would always classify everything as the boogeyman. It didn't matter what it was always the boogeyman. So I kind of, in my own head, the boogeyman is anything that's scary, tormenting, you know, follows you around, whatever it is. So sure. I just, you know, whatever the boogeyman is to you, that's what it is, you know. And so I just put the Boogeyman Chronicles, just because whatever. Again, I still don't know a lot of what I've experienced. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a demon or some really horrible entity, but it just, the Boogeyman kind of encapsulated all of it. So.
Okay.
Well, it definitely sounds like you haven't made your mind up what all this paranormal stuff is.
I don't think we're ever going to really know.
Yeah.
I think we're maybe a little closer to understanding the paranormal, but if you really look at, different times in history, we're just trying to figure this out. We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is confusing.
Very true.
I just think there's so much more of it than people let on. So much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a whole world. There's a whole realm. The veil, if you want to call it. You know what I mean? There's a whole thing going on around us that we don't even see. We don't pick up on. And we don't have the slightest idea. I think really of what's going on. I think we're putting the pieces together because maybe we've got a little bit more technology, but I mean, think about our ancestors, Celtic people were trying to figure it out. And then in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you had the spiritualism movement. So they were trying to figure out what this is. And you know what I mean? So every generation has this, movement. And now here we are with podcasts and web series and all this, sort of technology. If we go into things, if we can track stuff and, measure this and that and photograph things. And so we're getting, I think, closer, but I don't know if we're ever really going to know what this is,
Do you think that we're being researched by the paranormal? By these?
We could be, yeah.
Researching us?
Yeah, I was talking, I did a podcast yesterday and I was talking to the host and, I can't tell you how many times I've listened and talked to UFO, people who do, just strictly UFOs and they're saying, all of these, abductions and all these experiments or whatever they're, the samples they're taking and whatnot, they're, we were talking like, they don't have a soul. These grays or what have you, they don't have a soul. So they're trying to understand us and they don't have emotions as well. So they're trying to understand our emotions. So I think very much, I mean, there's, all those times that I felt something watching me and kind of checking me out, kind of confused, I think maybe they are just kind of intrigued,
Yeah, that could be too. We could be, they could be looking at us right back as we're researching them. They're researching us.
Yeah.
Very true. Doug, man, boy, did that just fly by, didn't it?
Yeah.
Boy, did that hour and a half just go right by.
Gone, zing.
You're right. Every time we say that, every week we say that, and it's no truer today because it just feels like we just got started. Again, it's M.G. Stephens is the author. The book is the Boogeyman Chronicles. Check it out. I think Flying Disc Publications. They're the ones that published this book. You can go to their website, check that out. It's Flying Disc Press is the publisher. Do you have a website yourself, MG?
I don't yet. I'm working on it right now. I don't really have a lot of social media. We do, the Boogeyman Chronicles podcast has a Facebook page and a YouTube page right now, but we're thinking about, making an audio version and putting it here, there, and everywhere. So for right now, you can just find us on YouTube and Facebook. But yeah, more's to come. I'm working on
cool.
books.
Very cool. The book is also available on Amazon if you'd like to get that way as well. So you can find the Boogeyman Chronicles, the book, on Amazon, and also you can visit the website, Flying Disc Press, get there as well. So till next time, guys, Doug, we got to rock and or roll. Take care of each other, love each other. And man, the paranormal just gets deeper and deeper as we go. Next week, we have a great show as well. See you guys later on.
You coming to bed, hon?
Yep, honey, I'll be right there. Just gotta turn out the light. Ow! Ow!
Some things never change. Like your kids always leaving tiny toys on the floor for you to step on. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Sweetie, I think I left the downstairs light on.
Please don't make me go.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.